Chosen one, what if I told you the news that just shattered your world wasn't sent to destroy you, but to expose the lie you've been living under for the last 10 years? What if the diagnosis, the betrayal, the bank statement that made your hands shake this morning? What if that wasn't the end, but the alarm clock heaven had to use because you stopped hearing whispers? What if the very thing that feels like it's breaking you in half is actually breaking you open? Chosen one, look at me. The news you just got. It feels like somebody dropped a brick on your chest. You can't breathe right. You're sitting there in your living room or your kitchen. Maybe it's late, maybe you couldn't sleep, and you're thinking, this is it. This is how my story ends. For some of you, it was a doctor's report, words you never wanted to hear. For some, it was your bank account this morning, numbers that don't make sense, fear crawling up your spine. For others, it was what your own child said to you last night. Words so sharp you didn't think your own blood could cut you that deep. You didn't click on this video by accident. Heaven pulled you into this moment. Because God told me, and I'm telling you right now, for the next 21 minutes, if you stay with me, He's going to show you why that news didn't come to destroy you. It came to expose what was already trying to destroy you. So don't you dare click away. This is a divine appointment. This is not entertainment. This is intervention. Here's what most people don't understand. Bad news is not always bad. Sometimes it's the only language left that can wake you up. It's like the floor under your feet just gave out, but maybe, just maybe, you were standing on rotten wood the whole time, and God had to collapse it before you fell through later, when it would have killed you. In a few minutes, I'm going to tell you the one thing God showed me in prayer, the thing that will flip this entire situation upside down. If you miss that, you'll misinterpret everything happening to you right now. You'll waste this pain. And chosen one, you cannot afford to waste this. If something in you is already stirring, if you feel that tug in your chest, type in the comments right now, I'm here, I'm listening. Let heaven see your agreement. And listen, thank you to every single one of you who has supported this message through Super Thanks. Your generosity means more than you know. You're not just donating, you're helping spread light to others who feel alone in their calling. Whether you give or not, I'm deeply grateful for your presence here. Your support, your time, your attention, it all matters. And if this message resonates with your soul, go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe, and share this with someone who just got hard news. They need this more than they know. Now, let me tell you what God whispered to me about your news. It wasn't random. Why does it feel like God saved all His hardest punches for the years you thought you'd finally earned rest? Why does the news that just landed on your doorstep feel like proof that heaven forgot your address? And why, after everything you've survived, everything you've sacrificed, everything you've carried in silence, why does it feel like you're being asked to carry one more load you don't have the strength for anymore? Chosen one, I need you to hear me right now, not with your ears. With that exhausted place deep inside your chest where you've been whispering prayers you're too ashamed to say out loud. You look strong on the outside. You show up. You smile at church. You tell people you're fine. But inside, you've said it. Maybe not in those exact words, but you've felt it. Lord, at my age, now this, haven't I been through enough? You've buried friends. Some of you buried a spouse. The person you thought you'd grow old with is gone, and you're still here, waking up to an empty side of the bed. You've watched your body slow down, knees that don't bend like they used to, hands that shake when you try to open a pill bottle, eyes that need more light just to read the news that broke your heart this morning. And now this diagnosis, this bill you can't pay on Social Security, this call from your child who doesn't visit anymore, this betrayal from someone you trusted for 30 years, this news that feels like God Himself has gone silent. You feel like the world moved on to the young, the fast, the loud, and left you standing in the background like an old photograph fading on a refrigerator door, like a light left on in an empty room that nobody remembers to turn off. Let me tell you something, the enemy has been whispering to you in the dark. You're too old for a comeback. You're too late for a miracle. God's done with you. This is just how your story ends. That lie? That's the poison in the news you just received. Because here's the truth heaven wants you to know. You are not the first person to get bad news when you thought your hard years were supposed to be over. Look at Naomi. She lost her husband, lost both her sons. Walked back into Bethlehem so broken, she told people, "Don't call me Naomi anymore, call me Mara bitter, because the Almighty has made my life very bitter." She thought God had turned his back on her in old age. She thought her story ended in emptiness. But God was writing the story of Ruth, and through Ruth came the lineage of King David, and through David came Jesus Christ himself. Naomi couldn't see it in her grief, but her pain was the doorway to a generational miracle. Look at Abraham and Sarah. Decades of waiting, decades of disappointment, bodies too old, too worn. Sarah laughed when God said she'd have a son because the promise felt cruel at her age. But Isaac came, and through Isaac came the nation of Israel. The delay wasn't denial, it was divine setup. Look at Job. Lost everything. Not in his youth, not when he had time to rebuild, late in life, when it hurt the most, when it felt the most unfair. Sitting in ashes, scraping his sores, wondering why God allowed this level of devastation after a lifetime of faithfulness. But God restored Job. Double. Not just his wealth, his purpose. His latter days were greater than his former days. Do you hear what I'm saying to you? The news you just got? It didn't come to destroy you. It came to locate you. God allowed that news to reach you because there's something still hiding in your life that needs to be exposed. Not your sin, not your failure, something deeper, a lie you've believed, a fear you've carried, a limitation the enemy planted in your mind that says, "You're too old, you're too late, you're too tired." That news? It's the chisel in God's hand, breaking open the shell you've been living in so he can pull out the giant he's been growing in secret. You think this is the end? Chosen one. This is the awakening. God doesn't do random. He doesn't throw news at his children for sport. When he allows something to shake you this hard, it's because there's treasure buried so deep that only an earthquake can bring it to the surface. You're not being punished. You're being positioned. You're not being discarded. You're being prepared. You're not fading into the background. You're being moved to center stage for the final act. Heaven has been rehearsing your whole life. If you're still breathing, God is still building. Because what God is about to do through you requires the kind of faith that only comes from surviving what you've survived, the kind of wisdom that only comes from the wars you've already won, the kind of authority that only comes from the scars you carry. The young can run fast, but only the seasoned can stand firm. The loud can get attention, but only the tested can carry weight. So let me ask you this, and don't answer out loud. Answer in that secret place where only you and God meet. What if this news isn't the end of your story, but the beginning of the chapter the enemy has been terrified of your whole life? What if God is about to use the very thing that broke your heart to break open the door you've been knocking on for decades? Stay with me, because what I'm about to show you next will change everything you thought you knew about this moment. Let me tell you something that's going to shake you awake right now. The news you just got, it wasn't random, it wasn't bad luck, it wasn't even punishment. It was revelation. Listen to me carefully. The news you received is not just information, it's spiritual intelligence. It showed you who really stands with you when the lights go out, and who was only there for the show. It revealed the cracks in the foundation that God refused to let you ignore any longer. Because if he let you keep building on broken ground, the collapse later would have buried you alive. You're sitting there thinking this news broke you. But what if I told you it didn't break you at all? What if it broke you out? Think about it. A good surgeon doesn't cut to harm. He cuts to heal. He goes deep. He removes what's rotting inside you before it kills you. And yes, it hurts. Yes, you bleed. But that pain, that's not destruction. That's precision. You know what else hurts? Demolition. Before they build a new skyscraper in Manhattan, they don't just start pouring concrete. They dig. They tear up the ground. They jackhammer through bedrock. They make noise. They create chaos. It looks like devastation. But that mess, that's not the end. That's the beginning. God is demolishing what you built on shaky ground so He can pour a foundation that will hold the weight of what He's about to give you. Let me ask you something, and I want you to be honest with yourself. What did that news expose? Did it expose a job you thought would take care of you forever, but now you see it never really loved you back? Did it expose a pension, a bank account, an insurance policy you thought was your security, only to realize it was a false god you've been bowing to for decades? Did it expose relationships you thought were solid, but the moment pressure came, they vanished like smoke? Did it expose the label you've been wearing, too old, done, useless, past your prime, and now God is ripping that label off your chest because heaven still has work for you to do? Here's the truth nobody wants to say out loud. Sometimes God has to let the bottom fall out, so you stop trusting the bottom and start trusting Him. Proverbs 3-5 says, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding." But let's be real. Most of us don't fully trust God until everything else fails. We say we trust Him, but we're still holding on to backup plans, safety nets, human solutions. And God, in His mercy, has to remove those things so we finally learn what it means to stand on Him alone. The Israelites had to lose Egypt before they could gain the promised land. They had to walk through the Red Sea with walls of water on both sides before they understood that God's protection is better than Pharaoh's provision. They had to wander in the wilderness, eating manna they didn't plant, drinking water from rocks they didn't dig, before they learned that God is the source, not the system. You think you're losing everything, but what you're really losing is the illusion that you ever had control in the first place. Let me say it again, slower this time, because this is the line that's going to set you free. The news that was supposed to break you is the very thing God is using to break you out. You're not being punished, you're being prepared. And I know that's hard to hear when you're in pain. I know it's hard to believe when your chest is tight and your mind is racing at 30 inches the morning. But stay with me, because what I'm about to tell you next is going to change how you see every hard moment for the rest of your life. God doesn't waste pain. He repurposes it. He transforms it. He takes what the enemy meant for evil and flips it into your greatest testimony. Joseph knew this. He told his brothers in Genesis 50-20, "You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives." What just happened to you? It feels personal. It feels targeted. It feels like hell itself opened up and swallowed your peace. And you're right, it was targeted. But not by God, by the enemy. Because the enemy knows something about you that you've forgotten. He knows you're dangerous. He knows that if you survive this, if you rise from this, if you let God rebuild you through this, you're going to walk into the next season with a level of authority, clarity, and fire that will shake every room you enter. And hell cannot afford that. So, he hit you hard. He hit you fast. He hit you where it hurt the most, hoping you'd crumble, quit, give up, and fade into bitterness. But you didn't. You're still here. You're still breathing. You're still seeking. And that terrifies him. Now here's where it gets even deeper. In just a few minutes, I'm going to tell you what God showed me about a 21-minute window over your life right now, and why hell is absolutely terrified you're still watching this. Because once you understand what's happening in the spirit during these 21 minutes, you'll never see bad news the same way again. Don't click off now. If this is reading your mail, if every word is landing in your chest like it was written for you, then you are in the dead center of God's message. This is not entertainment. This is not inspiration. This is intervention. If any sentence so far has shaken something loose inside you, if you feel that stirring in your spirit, write in the comments right now, "God, I'm listening." That's your agreement with heaven. That's your yes in the middle of the fire. Because what's about to happen next is going to explain why this moment, this pain, this news, wasn't the end of your story. It was the turning point. Listen to me very carefully right now. There is a lie that has been circling your mind like a vulture for years. You know the one I'm talking about. It whispers to you in the morning when you open your eyes and your body aches. It whispers to you when you see younger people getting promoted, getting married, getting blessed. It whispers when you look in the mirror and count the gray hairs, the wrinkles, the years. The lie says, you missed it, you're too old, the best is behind you. God used you once maybe, but your time is up. Sit down, fade out, let the young ones take over now. That lie, it didn't come from heaven, it came straight from the pit of hell. Because the enemy knows something about you that you've forgotten. He knows that if you ever wake up to who you really are at this age, at this stage, with this much experience, this much prayer stored up, this much faith tested and proven, you will become the most dangerous weapon God has ever released on the earth. So he has to convince you it's over. He has to make you believe the clock ran out, because if you believe that, you'll stop moving, you'll stop praying with authority, you'll stop speaking life, you'll stop breaking generational curses. And that's exactly what he wants. But God doesn't read from that script. Let me take you to the Bible. Let me show you something that will shatter this lie into a million pieces. Moses, 80 years old when God called him to the burning bush. 80. In our culture, that's when you're supposed to be on a beach somewhere in Florida sipping iced tea. But God said, now you're ready. Now you go tell Pharaoh to let my people go. Moses didn't peak at 30. He didn't peak at 50. His greatest assignment came when the world would have given him a gold watch and told him to retire. Caleb, 85 years old, standing in front of Joshua and the elders of Israel. And you know what he said? Give me this mountain. I'm as strong today as I was 40 years ago. I can still fight. I can still conquer. I can still take what God promised me. 85. And he's asking for a mountain, not a rocking chair. Anna the prophetess, 84 years old, widowed, alone. But she didn't sit in the back of the temple feeling sorry for herself. She prayed, she fasted, she waited. And when Mary and Joseph brought baby Jesus into that temple, it was Anna the old woman who recognized the Messiah, not the young priests, not the scholars, the elder. You see a pattern here. God doesn't throw you away when you hit 60, 70, 80. He refines you. He positions you. He waits until you've been through enough hell to carry enough heaven. You are not too old. You are right on time for a different kind of assignment. Here's what our culture won't tell you. American culture is obsessed with youth, obsessed with new, obsessed with fast. It tells you, retire at 65, sit down, watch TV all day, take your pills, fade out quietly, don't make waves, don't dream anymore, don't believe for anything big, just wait. But heaven says something completely different. Heaven says, now you mentor, now you intercede with authority, now you speak blessings over generations. Now you break curses in prayer that younger people don't even know how to identify yet. Now you walk into rooms and shift atmospheres just by being there, because you carry the weight of God's presence after decades of faithfulness. Your wrinkles? They're not shame. They're evidence that you survived what tried to kill you. Every line on your face is a testimony. Every gray hair is a battle scar. Every ache in your body is proof you didn't quit when quitting would have been easier. Your age is not your cage. It's your credential. Think about it. Who does the enemy fear more? A 25-year-old with passion but no discernment? Or a 70-year-old who knows how to pray through the night, who's seen God move mountains before, who's been betrayed and still chose forgiveness, who's been broke and watched God provide, who's been sick and witnessed healing, who's been abandoned and felt God's presence stronger than ever? You are not background noise in God's symphony. You are the baseline. You are the foundation. You are the steady rhythm that holds everything else together. Without you, the whole song falls apart. The news you just got, the thing that feels like it's breaking you, it didn't come to end your story. It came to launch your final, most powerful chapter. Because God knows you're strong enough now to carry what's coming. He knows you won't panic like you would have 20 years ago. He knows you won't quit like you might have 30 years ago. You've been trained, you've been tested, you've been prepared. And right now, the enemy is terrified. Because if you stand up, if you declare, "I'm not done yet," if you refuse to believe the lie that it's too late, everything shifts. Your family shifts. Your community shifts. The spiritual atmosphere around you shifts. So here's what I want you to do right now. If the devil's been whispering, "It's too late," in your ear, if he's been trying to convince you that your best days are gone, I want you to type your age in the comments. Type it boldly. And write these 4 words. God, I'm not done yet. Let heaven see your agreement. Let the enemy see your defiance. Let the younger generation see that faith doesn't retire, because you're not at the end of the book. You're at the final, most powerful chapter, the one everyone remembers, the one that ties everything together, the one that makes all the earlier chapters make sense. Now, if it's not too late, if God is actually positioning you right now for something greater, then what is He trying to do through this news? What is He trying to break open in you? I'm about to show you how this breaking moment becomes your launch moment. Stay with me. Now listen to me very carefully. God gave me something in prayer last week that I need you to understand. He said, "Tell them I'm giving them a 21-minute window of clarity. Not 20, not 30, 21. And I want you to hear me when I say this. This is not superstition. This is not some mystical trick. This is about a focused window where your heart is soft enough, your walls are down enough, and your spirit is open enough to hear what heaven has been trying to tell you for months. Right now, in this exact moment, you are inside that window. You might be thinking, what does that even mean? Let me break it down for you. In these 21 minutes, something is happening inside you that doesn't happen on an ordinary Tuesday afternoon. Old lies are starting to surface. The ones you buried, the ones you thought you dealt with. They're coming up not to torment you, but so God can finally confront them face to face. Memories are flooding back, childhood moments you haven't thought about in 40 years, past betrayals you said you forgave but never really released, missed opportunities that still sting when you're alone at 3 a.m. Your body is even reacting. Some of you feel tears building behind your eyes right now. Others feel tension in your chest like something's pressing down. Some of you just got goosebumps on your arms and you don't even know why. That's not coincidence, that's confirmation. Let me give you 4 signs that you're inside this 21-minute window right now. Pay attention, because this will tell you whether you're just watching a video or whether heaven has pulled you into something deeper. Sign number 1. This video feels like it's reading your diary, like I somehow know what happened to you last night, last week, this morning. You keep thinking, how does he know that? I don't. But the Spirit does. Sign number 2. Time is slowing down. You clicked on this thinking you'd give it 2 minutes, but now you're 10 minutes in and it feels like 10 seconds. That's not editing. That's the presence of God bending your awareness because He needs you to hear this. Sign number 3. Distractions are multiplying. Your phone keeps buzzing. Someone keeps texting. The dog's barking. Your stomach's growling. The enemy is doing everything in his power to pull you out of this moment because he knows what's about to happen if you stay. Sign number 4. You feel a tug. A tug to either cry or shut this off completely. You're right on the edge. Part of you wants to break down and let it all out. Another part of you wants to close this video, walk away, pretend you never heard it. That internal war? That's the battle between your breakthrough and your bondage. Now here's what I need you to understand about the news you got. The diagnosis, the betrayal, the financial collapse, the family drama that ripped your heart in half. That news, it wasn't random. It was heaven's emergency alert system. God sounded the alarm because your next chapter is too important to miss. Think about it. When does an alarm go off? when something critical is at stake, when there's danger, when you're about to sleep through something you cannot afford to sleep through. That's what this news was, a wake-up call wrapped in pain. The enemy rushed to break your heart because heaven is rushing to birth your calling. Let me say that again so it sinks all the way down into your bones. The devil moved fast to crush you because God is moving faster to elevate you. And the enemy knew if he didn't stop you now, right here, right at this moment, you were going to become unstoppable. But here's the flip. Here's the part that changes everything. What looked like a disaster is actually a delivery room. You thought you were being broken down, but God is breaking you open. Breaking open the old identity. Breaking open the false security. Breaking open the comfortable cage you've been living in for the last decade. Job lost everything. His children, his wealth, his health. His wife told him to curse God and die. But Job 42:10 says, "The Lord restored his fortunes and gave him twice as much as he had before." Twice. Not the same. Twice. Paul was shipwrecked, beaten, imprisoned, but he wrote in 2 Corinthians 4:17, "Our light and momentary troubles are achieving for us an eternal glory that far outweighs them all." Momentary troubles, eternal glory, the ratio is insane. Your news is not the end, it's the turning point. Now, I'm going to tell you something that's going to sound impossible, but I need you to receive it by faith. In the next section, I'm going to give you clear, specific instructions for the next 21 hours and the next 7 days, so you don't waste this window. Because if you walk away from this video without a plan, the enemy will steal what just got planted in your spirit. But before we go there, let me say this. If you're still here at this point, that alone is a sign you're inside this 21-minute window. Don't consume this like entertainment. This is not Netflix. This is not something you passively watch. Pause right now, take a breath, and share this with one person who just got hard news this week. You might be the reason they don't give up. Because here's the truth heaven wants you to know. The news that feels like it's breaking you is actually the last obstruction before your breakthrough. And that breakthrough? It's closer than you think. Listen to me carefully, chosen one. You've heard the diagnosis, you've seen the news, you've felt the weight of what just landed on your life. And right now, every voice in your head is screaming at you to do something, to fix it, to run, to fight, to collapse. But before you move another inch, I need you to stop. Because the next 21 hours will determine whether you walk through this with God or walk into a trap set by fear. For the next 21 hours, don't make any big decisions out of panic. Don't quit your job. Don't sell the house. Don't cut off your kids. Don't empty your savings account trying to solve something that only heaven can untangle. Because Proverbs 19:2 says, "It is not good to have zeal without knowledge, nor to be hasty and miss the way." Panic makes you hasty, and hasty makes you miss the way. So here's what you're going to do instead. First, you're going to talk. Not to your sister, not to your best friend who means well but has no answers. You're going to pour your heart out to God. And I mean honestly. No religious language, no fake prayers. Tell him you're scared. Tell him you're angry. Tell him you don't understand. David did it. Job did it. Jesus did it in the garden. God is not afraid of your raw emotion. He's afraid of your silence. Second, you're going to turn off the voices that feed your fear. That means the 24-hour news cycle. That means the relative who always has something negative to say. That means the late night scrolling through worst-case scenarios on your phone. Isaiah 26:3 says, "You will keep in perfect peace those whose minds are steadfast, because they trust in you." You cannot have a steadfast mind if you're feeding it chaos. Turn it off. Third, you're going to take note. Get a piece of paper, a notebook, anything. Write down what this news is really touching inside you. Is it the fear of being alone? Is it shame? Is it the terror of losing control? Is it money, health, your legacy? Because once you name it, you can fight it. What you don't name controls you in the dark. Now, the next 7 days, this is where faith becomes feet, This is where belief becomes obedience. And I'm going to give you 4 simple, practical actions that will shift your spiritual atmosphere. First, call one person God puts on your heart. Maybe it's someone you need to reconcile with. Maybe it's someone you need to set a boundary with. Maybe it's someone you haven't spoken to in years, and you don't even know why God is bringing them to mind. But you call them, you obey. Because sometimes God is rearranging your relational world to prepare you for what's coming. And if you ignore this, you'll miss a divine setup. Second, write a letter of forgiveness. You don't even have to send it. Write it to the person who hurt you. Write it to yourself. Write it to God if you're angry with Him. Hebrews 12:15 warns us, "See to it that no one falls short of the grace of God, and that no bitter root grows up to cause trouble and defile many." Bitterness is a root, and roots grow in the dark. Pull it up now before it chokes your next season. Third, schedule the thing you've been avoiding. That doctor's appointment, that meeting with a financial advisor, that conversation with your pastor, that visit to your lawyer to get your affairs in order. Faith is not passivity. Faith moves. Faith makes the call. Faith shows up. And sometimes God is waiting on you to take the first step before He takes the next 10. Fourth, start a small daily routine. 10 minutes of scripture, 10 minutes of walking, even if it's just around your block. 10 minutes of writing down what you're feeling, what you're believing, what you're hoping. Don't underestimate the power of consistency. It's not about intensity, it's about showing up every single day. Because rhythm builds resilience. Now here's what you need to understand. You think this season is about what you lost. You're going to be shocked when you see what's being prepared behind your back because you stayed faithful. While you're losing your mind thinking it's over, heaven is quietly rearranging people, places, and opportunities for your good. Romans 8:28 doesn't say some things work together for good. It says all things, even this, even now. God is not just saving your soul, He's saving your story. He's saving your reputation, He's saving your family line, He's saving the testimony that someone 20 years from now is going to need to hear so they don't give up. This week is not a funeral, it's a construction site. You're not under attack, you're under renovation, and renovations are loud, messy, and uncomfortable. But when it's done, you won't even recognize the structure. You'll walk into a version of your life that fear said was impossible. So right now, I want you to pick one action for today. Just one. And I want you to say it out loud. Say, "Today I will." And then finish that sentence. Write it in the comments. That's your step of faith. That's your agreement with heaven. That's you telling the enemy, "You will not paralyze me, I'm moving." Because the next 21 hours and the next 7 days are not random. They are divine alignment. And what you do in this window will determine what door opens next. Chosen one, we need to talk about something you've been carrying in secret for way too long. You're replaying your mistakes like old tapes in your head, aren't you? Marriages that failed. Kids you couldn't protect the way you wanted to. Money you blew when you were younger and thought you had all the time in the world. Years you call wasted because you can't see what God was building underneath the wreckage. You sit there at night and those memories come crawling back like ghosts. You think about the divorce papers, the rehab visits, the estranged son who won't return your calls, the business that went under, the addiction you hid for decades, and somewhere deep inside, you've convinced yourself that God is embarrassed by your story, that He's keeping you around out of mercy, but not really using you anymore, that you're a leftover, a has-been, someone He tolerates but doesn't celebrate. Let me tell you something, and I need you to hear this with every fiber of your being. God is not embarrassed by your story. He's rewriting it. Right now. Today. In this moment. You think you're watching the credits roll on your life, but heaven is still writing Act 3. And Act 3 is where the truth gets revealed. It's where the underdog wins. It's where the one everybody counted out becomes the one everybody can't stop talking about. You are not just a survivor. You are a pillar. You are not background noise in this generation. You are a foundation stone that everything else is being built on top of. Your prayers are holding up roofs you'll never see. Your faith is anchoring families that don't even know your name yet. The Bible says in Psalm 92:14, "They will still bear fruit in old age. They will stay fresh and green." Did you catch that? Still. Not used to. Not once upon a time. Still. You are not an extra in this movie. You are a key character. Heaven refuses to cut from the script, because if they cut you, the whole story falls apart. Let me tell you what's really happening right now. There are grandchildren sitting in living rooms right now who need to see you get back up one more time. There are neighbors watching you from across the street who are one bad diagnosis away from giving up completely, and they need to see you choose faith when the news is terrible. There are younger believers, people in their 20s and 30s, who think faith is supposed to be easy, who think anointing means no scars, and they need to see your limp, your scars, your grey hair, and hear you say, "God brought me through, and He's not done yet." Your pain is about to become somebody else's proof that God still moves. Your story is not a cautionary tale. It's a training manual for the next generation. And here's where it all flips. Here's the moment heaven has been building toward. The news that was meant to break you is the moment heaven chose to announce you. Say that again with me, slowly. What tried to shatter you just confirmed you. The diagnosis that scared you, it confirmed you're still in the fight. The betrayal that wounded you, it confirmed your heart is still soft enough to feel. The loss that emptied your bank account, it confirmed your trust isn't in money anymore, it's in the God who owns every dollar that's ever been printed. The enemy wanted that news to be your obituary, but God is using it as your introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce you to someone who's been through hell and still believes in heaven. Let me show you someone who got knocked down in round 1, round 5, round 9, and is still standing in round 12. Let me present to you a chosen one who refused to quit when quitting was the only thing that made sense. That's you. That's who you are. Now listen to me carefully, because this is where most people miss it. You've been fighting this alone. You've been carrying this news like it's your personal curse, your private nightmare. You've been trying to fix it, manage it, survive it on your own strength. And God is saying, give it to me. Not someday, not when you figure it out, not when it gets better. Right now, if you're ready to stop fighting this alone and truly place this news, this diagnosis, this betrayal, this financial collapse, this family heartbreak, if you're ready to place it in God's hands, I want you to whisper where you are, out loud, "Lord, this is yours now." Say it. "Lord, this is yours now." If you can type it in the comments. "Lord, this is yours now." That's your surrender. That's your agreement with heaven. That's the moment everything shifts. Because when you release it, God receives it. And when God receives it, He transforms it. What you hand over broken, He hands back blessed. What you give Him in pieces, He returns as a masterpiece. You are not finished, chosen one. You are being unveiled. And what's about to happen next is going to prove that the best stories don't end when the characters get older. They end when the author says, "It is finished." And He hasn't said that about you yet. Now, let me show you what happens when a chosen one finally stops running from their calling and steps into it with everything they've got left. Listen to me carefully, chosen one. Right now, while you're sitting there drowning in that news, while fear is wrapping its hands around your throat, while you're replaying every mistake you ever made like some prosecutor in your own mind, something else is happening. Something you cannot see with human eyes. Heaven's courtroom is in session, and your case, it just got reopened. Not because you're in trouble, because you're about to be vindicated. See, what you call bad news, that diagnosis, that betrayal, that financial collapse, heaven calls it Exhibit A, evidence. But not the kind you think, not evidence against you. Evidence that the enemy has been operating illegally in your life. And God? He's not ignoring your situation. He's reviewing your entire life with mercy in his hand and justice on his lips. Let me paint you the picture. Right now, in the Supreme Court of Heaven, there are 3 voices speaking over your life. First, there's the accuser, the enemy, standing there in his cheap suit, flipping through his files on you like he's got something, and he's loud, real loud. They wasted years, Your Honor. Look at them. They failed their kids. They made stupid choices in their 30s. They're too old now to be useful. They're weak. They're tired. They've got nothing left. Case closed. He's been whispering those same lies to you at 3 a.m., hasn't he? You've heard his voice so many times, you started thinking it was your own thoughts. But it's not. It's him. And he's been operating without a license in your life for too long. Now here's where it gets good. Because standing right next to you, closer than your own breath, is Jesus, your advocate. And when the enemy finishes his little speech, Jesus doesn't even raise his voice. He just lifts his hands. And on those hands, scars, nail scars, blood that never dries. And he says this, slow and steady, I already paid for that. I already covered that. I already redeemed that. Every accusation, paid for. Every failure, covered. Every wasted year, redeemed. The blood of Jesus is your legal document, chosen one. It's not a suggestion. It's a binding contract signed in the highest court in existence. And the enemy has no authority to bring up what's been washed in that blood. But the enemy keeps talking, doesn't he? But look at their age, Your Honor. They're in their 60s, 70s. What can they possibly do now? It's over. And that's when God the Father, judge of all creation, the Ancient of Days, leans forward on his throne. And I want you to hear this in your spirit right now, because this is the part that changes everything. God says, the world sees your age as case closed, but I just reopened your file. You hear me? The world wrote you off. The culture said, you're past your prime. Even the church put you in the back row and stopped asking your opinion. But heaven just called an emergency session, because the news that hit you this week wasn't closing your story. It was triggering a higher review of it. See, here's what you don't understand. Every time the enemy attacks you, every time bad news lands on your doorstep, it's because he knows something you forgot. He knows you still have an assignment. He knows there's still fire in you. He knows that if you ever wake up and realize who you really are, his whole operation in your family, your neighborhood, your bloodline, it collapses. That's why the attack came. That's why the news felt so heavy. Because you're dangerous, and he's terrified. Now here comes the climax. The moment the gavel is about to fall, and God speaks the verdict. And I need you to hear this not just with your ears, but with every cell in your body, every scar on your heart, every doubt in your mind. The verdict over your life is not guilty, not finished, not forgotten, not guilty of the things you're still punishing yourself for, not finished, no matter what the calendar says, not forgotten, no matter how silent it's been. The only one still punishing you is you. Heaven has already moved on to restoration. Heaven has already signed the release papers. But you're still sitting in the cell with the door wide open, replaying the trial in your head. Chosen one, it's time to walk out. But here's what most people miss. Here's the thing God saw in your story that you completely overlooked, and it's why this attack could never succeed. In just a moment, I'm going to show you the one piece of evidence the enemy tried to bury. The one thing God is about to use to flip this entire situation upside down. If you miss this, you'll misread everything, you'll waste the breakthrough. So, stay with me. Because what I'm about to tell you next is going to shatter every lie you've been believing about your age, your worth, and your future. But before we go there, if you're ready to stop being your own judge, if you're ready to let God rule your case, I need you to do something. Type in the comments right now, Lord, I accept your verdict. Let heaven see your surrender. Because the courtroom is waiting, and your restoration has already been signed. Now, let me show you what heaven saw. Let's do something right now that might feel uncomfortable. I want you to close your eyes for just a second, and I want you to imagine something with me. Imagine that phone never rang. Imagine that envelope never came in the mail. Imagine you never walked into that doctor's office, never opened that bank statement, never heard those words from your own child's mouth. Imagine you never got the news. What would have happened? You would have kept walking, blind, smiling on the outside, dying on the inside. You would have kept pretending everything was fine while the foundation underneath your feet was crumbling, piece by piece, in silence. Let me paint you a picture, chosen one. Let me show you the alternate timeline, the one God just pulled you out of. If you never got that diagnosis, that pain in your chest, that fatigue you kept ignoring, that thing the doctor found if it had stayed hidden for another 6 months, another year, you wouldn't be sitting here right now. The disease would have spread, quietly, ruthlessly, and by the time it screamed loud enough for you to notice, it would have been too late. The news you got this week, it wasn't the beginning of your death. It was the alarm that saved your life. If you never got that financial wake-up call, if that bill never came, if that account never got frozen, if you never saw those numbers that made your stomach drop, you would have kept spending, kept borrowing, kept telling yourself, I'll figure it out later. And later would have come like a freight train. The debt hole would have gotten so deep you'd never see daylight again. That shock you felt when you opened that letter, that wasn't punishment. That was God slamming on the brakes 3 feet before the cliff. And if you never had that confrontation with that family member, that so-called friend, that person you trusted with everything, if they never showed you who they really were, you would have kept giving, kept sacrificing, kept bleeding yourself dry for someone who was never going to love you back. That person would have used you until you had nothing left, not your money, not your peace, not your dignity. The betrayal that crushed you last week, it didn't destroy you, it freed you. Proverbs 27:6 says, "Faithful are the wounds of a friend, but deceitful are the kisses of an enemy." Sometimes the worst phone call is God slamming on the brakes before you crash. Sometimes the letter that makes you cry is the letter that saves your life. Sometimes the conversation that breaks your heart is the conversation that breaks the curse. You see, chosen one, we spend so much time asking God, why did this happen to me, that we forget to ask the better question, what was this protecting me from? You think this news came to end your story. But what if it came to interrupt the story that was going to end you? What if God looked down and saw where you were headed, saw the wreckage waiting for you around the corner and said, "Not on my watch. I love them too much to let them walk into that." So he sent the news, not as a weapon, as a warning, not as a curse, as a course correction, not to break you, to wake you. It's like missing a flight, only to find out later that flight never made it. You were furious in the airport. You were crying at the gate. But God saw what you couldn't see. He delayed you. He rerouted you. He saved you from something you'll never even know was coming. It's like a storm that floods your basement and exposes the cracked foundation before the whole house collapses. Yeah, the cleanup is ugly. Yeah, it's expensive. Yeah, you're exhausted. But if that storm never came, if that crack stayed hidden, one day soon, without warning, the whole structure would have come down on top of you and everyone you love. The news that broke your heart may have saved your life. What if this is not the beginning of the end, but the end of what was quietly killing you? What if God is not punishing you, He's protecting you? What if the thing that shattered you is actually the thing that's setting you free? I know it doesn't feel like freedom right now. I know it feels like devastation. But chosen one, you've got to trust the hand that's holding you, even when you can't see the path ahead. Psalm 37:23 says, "The steps of a good man are ordered by the Lord, and He delights in His way." Ordered, not random, not accidental, not cruel, ordered. Every step, every stumble, every shock, Every piece of news that knocked the wind out of you, it was ordered. God saw it coming. He allowed it. And if he allowed it, that means he has a plan to use it. So, if something in you right now is whispering, maybe this did save me from worse, even if you don't fully understand it yet, even if it still hurts like hell, type in the comments, God, thank you for stopping me. Say it, even if you're crying. Say it, even if you're angry. Say it, even if you're confused. Because faith is not pretending you're okay. Faith is trusting God even when you're not. Now stay with me, because what I'm about to show you next is going to change everything. I'm going to talk about what God plans to build now that certain things have been exposed. This is where your story turns. This is where the breaking becomes the building. Don't you dare leave now. We're just getting to the good part. Let me tell you something they don't teach you in church anymore. Your words are not just words. At your age, your words carry weight. Real weight. Grandkids, listen to what you say. Neighbors, hear your tone. Hell is listening too, waiting for you to curse yourself so it doesn't have to. Every time you open your mouth and say, "It's over for me," you're not just expressing how you feel, you're signing a contract with defeat. You're giving permission for that thing to settle in and make itself at home in your life. Proverbs 18:21 says it plain, "Death and life are in the power of the tongue, not death or life, death and life, both at the same time, in the same mouth, your mouth." That means every morning you wake up, you get to choose which one you're going to release into your day. And chosen one, if you've been waking up and releasing death without even knowing it, today is the day that stops. Listen to me closely. I need you to hear the scripts you've been running. The ones that play on repeat in your head and come out of your mouth when you're tired, when you're alone, when the news hits hard. I'm finished. I'm too old for this. I'm just a burden now. Nothing good ever happens for me. God must be mad at me. That's why this keeps happening. Stop. Right there. Do you hear what you just did? You took the news, the hard moment, the diagnosis, the betrayal, the loss, and you wrapped it in a lie. You called yourself finished when God says you're being refined. You called yourself a burden when heaven calls you a blessing. You said nothing good happens when Psalm 84:11 says, "No good thing will he withhold from those who walk uprightly." You've let the enemy ghostwrite your story long enough. Your tongue is the pen that writes how this chapter gets remembered. And right now, you're holding that pen. Here's what we're going to do. Right now, together, I'm going to give you new words, prophetic declarations, simple, repeatable, powerful. You don't need a theology degree, you just need a voice and the guts to use it. Say this with me. I am not a burden, I am a blessing. Say it again. My age is not my prison, it's my platform. One more time. This news is not my ending, it's my turning. Did you feel that? That shift in your chest? That's not just emotion, that's realignment. That's your spirit waking up and saying, finally, finally, you're talking like who you really are. Because here's the truth they won't tell you on the evening news, or in the doctor's office, or even in some churches. You are not defined by what happened to you. You are defined by what God said about you before anything ever happened. Jeremiah 1-5. Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before the diagnosis, before the bank account went south, before your child broke your heart, before any of it, God knew you. And he called you chosen. So today, right now, we're doing something that's going to feel radical, but is absolutely necessary. We're rewriting the label. You stop calling this the news that broke me. From this moment forward, you call it the day God took over. You stop calling this my worst year. You start calling it my reset year. You stop calling yourself too old to matter. You start calling yourself seasoned enough to see what's really happening. Language changes everything. It changes your posture. It changes your expectations. It changes what you pray for and what you're willing to fight for. And I need you to do something right now. I need you to say this out loud with me, wherever you are. In your living room, in your kitchen, in your car. I don't care. Say it. This news will not define me. God's word defines me. Say it louder. This news will not define me. God's word defines me. Now, if you can, if you're able, I want you to type that in the comments. Let heaven and hell see what side you stand on. Let the algorithm know there's power in this room. Let somebody else who's watching in silence see your declaration and find the courage to make their own. Because here's what most people miss. This moment is not just about your survival. It's about your assignment. You think this news came just to test you? No, it came to position you. God is putting you in a place where your story, your scars, your survival, your shifted language is going to help somebody else who's standing where you stood 3 days ago. Your assignment is coming into focus. And the reason you had to change how you talk about this news is because the people you're about to help need to hear a different sound. They need to hear somebody who's been through it and came out talking like God is still in control. So let me ask you directly, who are you going to help with this? Who in your life is watching you right now, waiting to see if you fold or if you stand? Because they're listening to every word. Now, in just a moment, I'm going to show you exactly what that assignment looks like and why this news had to hit you first before you could carry it. But before we go there, I need you to lock this in. You are not a victim. You are a voice. And your voice just changed the entire trajectory of what's coming next. You thought you were just the patient, didn't you? The broken one, the forgotten one, the retired one sitting in the back pew with nothing left to offer but a tired amen. You thought this news came to sideline you, to bench you, to write you off as too old, too tired, too damaged to be of any use to God's kingdom. But let me tell you what heaven sees when it looks at you right now. Heaven sees a first responder. Heaven sees a warrior no one saw coming. Heaven sees someone who's been through the fire and came out holding the map for everyone else still burning. You are not the victim in this story, chosen one. You are the intercessor. And your tears are not wasted. They are liquid prayers falling on dry ground where nothing else could grow. Listen to me closely. Someone else just got the same kind of news you did. Right now, this very second. Maybe it's a grandmother 3 states over, sitting in a clinic waiting room. Maybe it's a man your age staring at a foreclosure notice with shaking hands. Maybe it's a mother who just buried her son and doesn't know how to wake up tomorrow. They got the same news, but they don't have what you have. They don't have your faith. They don't have your years. They don't have your experience of watching God show up when the doctors said it was over. They don't have your testimony of surviving what should have killed you. And God is about to use you as proof that it's possible to walk through this without losing your mind. You see, the enemy wanted this news to destroy you. But God is flipping the script. He's turning you into evidence. Living, breathing, still standing evidence that bad news is not the final word. 2 Corinthians 1-4 says it plain. He comforts us in all our troubles, so that we can comfort those in any trouble with the comfort we ourselves receive from God. Read that again. God didn't comfort you just so you could feel better. He comforted you so you could become a comforter. You've been in spiritual ICU, and now God is moving you to staff. You're not just the patient anymore. You're part of the healing team. Your scars? They're sermons with skin on them. Every wrinkle on your face tells a story of a battle you survived. Every grey hair is a crown of wisdom earned in the trenches. It's your access pass into rooms where only the broken are allowed to speak. Now, let me give you something practical. I'm not going to leave you hanging with some nice idea you forget in 5 minutes. I'm going to tell you how to walk in this assignment starting today. First, pray daily for people getting bad news. In hospitals, in banks, in courtrooms. You don't have to know their names. God knows. Pray for the woman who just heard the word malignant. Pray for the man who just got the divorce papers. Pray for the family that just lost everything. You've been there. You know the language of that kind of pain. So speak on their behalf. Second, send one encouraging message a day to someone younger. A text,